All right, welcome back to the hot spot. I am folding my paper because the two outstanding, distinguished Guamanians joining me right now on the KUM couch are next on Candidate Conversations. We have, of course, incumbent Senator Joanne Brown. Hafa Senator.
Hey, Hafa. Always good to see you, Jason.
Likewise. We're very happy to have you. First time I've seen you in literally 2.5 years.
It has been a while, yeah, but always a pleasure.
Yeah, well, no, actually, when you came by here for Giving
Tuesday, yeah, we did.
For Giving Tuesday for the donation.
Tuesday, yes, we were able to meet briefly.
I actually went out to the senator's car and helped her
carry stuff in. That's right. Hey, lucky me.
Many donations. Someone who I've talked to a lot over the past 2 years, but not in person since the last time we were here, is Wil Parkinson. I got to tell you, bro, great suspenders.
Oh, thank you.
Those are outstanding. And
practical.
Where'd you get your tie? Because we got to talk about this afterwards.
We will talk about this afterwards.
I mean, I'm a tie guy, but I mean, that is a wonderful tie. So congratulations to the both of you on making the decision to run for public office. Obviously, Senator, you know this probably better than most people on Guam. Very emotionally taxing, financially exhausting.
You know from personal experience.
Yeah, those years when my dad was running and everything like that.
But with your dad.
But you know, can there be any ambition more noble than to want to give of your time and make a career out of trying to make the island better? So we wish the both of you the best of luck and congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. With Senator Brown, we'd like to give you a minute and that camera to tell the people about yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Jason, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you here today at KUAM. I'm running again, and I had a 14-year absence from the Guam legislature. I actually first ran for office in 1994, served 6 consecutive terms, stepped down, and then 14 years later, because I was so dissatisfied with the leadership direction and the legislature pretty much being a rubber stamp to the administration, it infuriated me enough to say, hey, I've got to do something about it. It's actually what encouraged me, and people encouraging me, to run for the 35th Guam legislature, the 36th Guam legislature that I'm in. And so that's why I'm running. I feel the government needs to be accountable. And that's certainly something I've worked towards in the legislation that I've introduced and legislation that I passed, particularly the one that requires transparency and public notice. I mean, one thing you do notice now when you open your paper and you're looking at public hearings or meetings and conferences or whatever the case may be, the government of Guam is now required to publish their agenda so that you and the public are right up front and center in knowing what your government's doing. You may not always agree with it, but you're certainly aware of it when it's happening. And being able to require them to transmit those meetings over their computer, people can get on their phone, wherever they are and look and know what it is their government's doing, to me, really maximizes the opportunity for our people to be directly aware and involved in their own government, which to me is very important.
All right, well,
that's
Senator,
how you ensure accountability.
Absolutely, and I thank you so much. And I must say, like, I've had the good fortune of covering many of your speeches and presentations over the years. Best speech I ever saw you give was when you were running the Guam EPA, June 15th of 1992, the Simon Sanchez high school graduation. Because I was an 18-year-old Jason Salas in my cap and gown sitting there, and I was like, wow, that was an inspiring speech. So, well done.
Thank you. Wow, all these years later, here you are. You've grown up so well. We're so proud of you,
I've grown
Jason.
up a little bit. Yeah. So, Wil Parkinson, many people know you in the community, but would you tell the community maybe something about yourself, your platform, your reasons for running again?
Well, my name is Wil Parkinson. My father was former Speaker Don Parkinson. I was raised here on Guam, graduated from GW, class of 2004. My whole life I wanted to become a firefighter. So when I graduated, I went to the States and I fought fire in several states, usually out of Region 1, Idaho, Oregon, Utah, California, Alaska, all those areas, fought fire in, and then I got the hardest call in my life I was ever going to get. My father was sick with advanced Parkinson. My father, former Speaker Don Parkinson, and I did what any good son would do, and I changed careers and was on the next flight home to become a full-time caretaker a week later. And when I was taking care of my dad, I got to see how difficult it was for caretakers who were going through the VA system, because my father was a disabled vet. And, you know, I saw, we were running the family business, I saw how much people were struggling, and so that inspired me to run for public office.
That is something that unfortunately we have in common. Is, you know, like I helped out as a caretaker for my dad too when he got sick and everything. So, you know, hats off to you for doing that.
Yeah,
you know,
I want to help the people who have answered the same call I did, and, you know, and shared the same struggles I have.
There you go. When responsibility calls, all you can do is pick up the phone and, you know, get to work.
Like public service, it's a calling.
Okay. On a much more happy note. I did not know, Will, that you have a passion for the performing arts, and
Yes, I am.
you've been involved in a theater production the past
Yeah,
couple of years.
I was in the most recent theater production of Much Ado About Nothing
Yep.
with the Breaking Wave Theater Company. Fantastic experience. It was kind of a nice coming out party because we got to see a live audience the same week as the mask restrictions were removed. So it felt pre-pandemic. It was a wonderful evening.
There you go. Well, all the world's a stage, as they say.
All the world's a stage, right?
Maybe not at the public hearing, but all the world's a stage. In other words, that's a stage unto itself. All right. Let's get to. I mean, we could talk about Shakespeare all day long, but we are going to talk about the issues facing our island right now. And Senator Joanne Brown, we'd like to start with you. Obviously, you've been huge on fighting corruption in the public sector, and unfortunately, GovGuam's given you a lot of material to work with. With hindsight being 2020, how do we eliminate in the public sector, people trying to game the system, for unfair benefit, and or is it a necessary evil that we have to live with?
Well, it's unfortunate, and you see that going on all the time, and lately you see that going on quite frequently. I think that's why I think it's important to have transparency and accountability in government. When you shine the bright light on government operations, and public officials have to account for what they're doing and when decisions are getting made. That's why it was so critical to make sure that the government of Guam started to publish its agenda. So even in the legislature, when we're having a session, you know what bills are on the agenda. If it's a board or commission or an autonomous agency, you know what's on the agenda. If there's a big contract that questionable, well, you know what's on the agenda, and the public has the opportunity to keep their eye. And I very much feel that when public officials know that the public eye is on them, they'll be very careful how they act. Because in the past, the government, unfortunately, over the years has become very insulated from the public it's supposed to serve. You have business people who will come up and tell me that they can't even get basic responses back from agencies, or getting permitting requirements to know what they are so they can fulfill them and address what they need to do to open their business. And that's the type of thing that our government needs to be responsive of, and our people should expect it. But sometimes you think, oh gosh, I as an individual can't do anything about it, and that's why I think it's important to open up the government, make people aware, and have people be able to access and hold their government accountable, to include all of us.
So not only anti-corruption, but also streamlining of operations, would you say?
Very much so. We're here supposedly, the government's not here to exist in and of itself, to take care of itself. It does appear that way often, doesn't it? But that's not what we're here for. We're here to facilitate and keep a stable government, and ensure that we can provide the most critical services to our people. And that's very important. And definitely accountability goes hand in hand with that. We're over $1 billion. When I left the legislature, we were barely half the cost. And that was, 16 years ago.
Right,
in that time, we've imploded already to over $1 billion plus, not including all our federal funds, in terms of the overall cost of our government. That's a lot of money to want to keep an eye on.
All right, thank you, Senator. Very well said. All right, Wil Parkinson, I'd like, since you brought up your father, your late father, former Speaker Don Parkinson, I asked Senator Joseph Augustine was here to maybe share some memories of if he were to, metaphysics prevents it, of course, but if you were to address your dad and ask him about leadership, about policy making, and about politics and everything like that, what do you think would he pass down to you as far as wisdom from veteran politician to aspiring politician, and also father to son?
Well, my dad shared a couple great nuggets of wisdom. We have this thing we call Don's 3 rules for life, and the one they always remember it is never hustle a hustler, never try to beat a man at his own game, and never do or say anything you wouldn't want your mother to see on the front page of the paper tomorrow. So I try to take those lessons, those little nuggets of wisdom he brought with me. Like with the legislative process, he told me that you can attack and tear down and just say the meanest things about somebody's bill that you want, but as long as you keep it about the work and you never personally attack another person, you could always have a civil and congenial relationship with each other. You could always work professionally as long as you keep any conflict about the work.
It should always be business, never personal.
Exactly.
How many times have you watched The Godfather? That's a seminal line in the movie.
Too many to count.
I've seen The Godfather 800 times and everything, so certainly that's one of my favorite lines. All right, very, very true. And thank you for sharing about your late father.
Thank you.
Very big of you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share it.
Absolutely. Senator, what do you consider to be your biggest accomplishment during this current term? Because as you said, you were part of a group of senators, yourself, Tony Atta, Chris Duenas, many came
Frank
back
Ross,
and
yes.
jumped in a time when our island was at its most vulnerable?
Well, I think even much to our surprise in the last election, we were the only 4 that got elected, the 4 former Republican senators. And certainly my transparency bill in terms of the public notice requirement, I did introduce a bill which hasn't come out of committee. It was publicly heard in February of last year for official misconduct. I think public officials that have been given the opportunity once they've violated that, I don't think they should have the opportunity to come back and take advantage of the people again. I think people need to be held responsible. And then I also introduced a bill that I'm very pleased with, and I'm hoping that we'll pass in this term. If we don't, and I'm fortunate enough to get reelected, I will pursue these bills again. I will vigorously pursue them, is to provide more autonomy to the Office of Public Accountability, because there has to be an entity in the government that not only does the audit reports, and currently our current public auditor, B.J. Cruz, and his team have done a very good job in providing the audit reports, but when they find issues, inconsistencies, misdeeds, maybe downright criminal activity or corruption, they're not able to go beyond that. And we want to be able to support their office, give them the finances and give them the tools that they need to do their job. So we always have a government watchdog that's elected by the people, but always looking over the shoulders of everyone else to make sure that they're being responsible and accountable in the service that they're providing to our people.
I heard once a review of how you try and hold the government that you work in very accountable. Someone said once, and they said of your approach, and they said, Senator Brown, don't take no crap from nobody.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Which
I cannot think of higher praise.
And not in a mean way, but I
Exactly.
think you need to ensure that you know, and I've been on both sides of the aisle. I've had the opportunity to work, you know, almost half my government career in 2 administrations. So I know what it's like to also do the operations and mechanics of running some very substantially sized agencies in the government.
Yeah,
And
the
being
Port
able to-
Authority, EPA.
And DPW, and being able to deliver on that mission and being able to motivate our people to do well. So I'm not going at it from a position that I'm not unaware of how government, the fact that I am very aware of how government operates and where I think there needs to be an improvement, like all the federal funds that we're getting, that our governor's getting on behalf of our people, that our Congressman Mike and Nicholas help facilitate. We want to be accountable for all that money, making sure that it's properly spent and being spent on the things that we need for our pandemic recovery. I mean, those are things that are important. We're talking how many hundreds of millions of dollars.
All right, Senator, I want to give Wil Parkinson a chance. Let's talk cannabis, Wil. And you have,
Yes.
exhaustively, very, very much so. And many people in our community know you as someone who has been outspoken. You're a member of the Cannabis Control Board and an outspoken voice about legalization. What other aspects, now that we've made progress, you know, what many people might consider a progress, so like, where do you take it if in fact elected? How do you get it to the next level? And how do you get there?
Well, one of the things I've always said from the beginning is the work with the cannabis industry is not done until the first dispensary is opened. So until we get those first shops open, there's still plenty of work to do. And
Until there's a transaction in the ledger that says it happened.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And right now the industry it's still in its infancy. And there are forces out there that would like to kill this industry before it can stand on its legs. So if I am elected senator, I will be a consistent, reliable, pro-cannabis voice that will protect the industry however it needs to be protected until it gets stood up on its own.
Do you plan to pick up the work of Senator Clint Bridgell, who is not seeking like re-election, basically like everything he's done, and
Absolutely,
just take
no.
the baton, or do you want to go in a
Actually,
different direction?
I want to take the baton from Clint Bridgell because
Okay.
that's actually one of the reasons I was running. Like when Clint Bridgell said that he wasn't going to run, that shook me. He was the champion for a lot of my issues,
Right.
you know, utilities, cannabis, you know, holding people accountable. I was all about that. And so when he decided not to run, I met with him first and was like, I want to take the baton on the work you're doing. You know, the work's not done. It needs to continue.
Any change in direction from what Senator Bridgell is doing right now?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really. Like,
Okay, fair
I
enough.
agree with his vision, and I just want to make sure it gets seen through.
All right, very well. And Senator Brown, your final question. You've obviously been, speaking of criticism, very critical of the current general manager of the agency that you used to run, Roy Respicio, of course, who sits as GM of the Port Authority. What needs to be addressed at that agency to get it to what you see as an acceptable point? You know, we're talking about streamlining operations and whatnot. And how would you ensure that that plan is effectively executed, in theory and in practice?
Having been the Port General Manager for 6 years, I think it's ensuring that people have the tools and the resources they need to work, making sure they're motivated. I mean, the current General Manager likes to talk about, oh, the morale is really good. And he's really the person who shouldn't be talking about that. That should be the people that work there. And holding people to be responsible, but also ensuring that people that do the work and work hard are properly rewarded. And you don't have all the political nonsense that goes on, the paybacks that have happened, the promotions. I mean, when we already know in advance, and I'm no longer in the circle, but when I know in advance who's going to get promoted, who's going to get what position, who's going to get what favor, and that's circulating out there in the community, that's wrong. I mean, the merit system and ensuring that people are being given the opportunity for their hard work is important, because you can't have high morale when you have that kind of nonsense going on. And I'm disappointed. I mean, I expected more. I thought whoever was going to be the next general manager of the port would take it to the next level and focus on the mission. And we're finding a lot of key operational things of the agency have not been pursued, that are on very tight timelines. And in the next few years, if they don't start addressing it, we're really going to start to see cracks in the operations of a very critical entity that we need, that services our people every day.
Okay, well, thank you, Senator, for that. And Wil, your final question. You know, we've talked about economic diversification on the show, and a colleague of the both of yours, Alexander Duenas, was saying he wants to take not just tourism, but he wants to make farming and agriculture like more of Guam's export good. So aside from marijuana, what other means of economic diversification do you see coming up? So that people just don't see you as, you know, like you're the guy who hangs his hat on, like,
no, absolutely.
You know, I'm
no,
the
actually,
weed senator.
Actually,
you know?
no. One of the big planks of my candidacy is utilities. The utilities are way out of control these last few years. So in the short term, I want to introduce legislation similar to like the rebate proposed by Governor Lulian Guerrero in the short term. And in the long term, I want to embrace solar technology. Put solar panels on all of our roofs, take advantage of federal dollars to help subsidize it, and use that as the long-term mechanism to fight rising utility rates. Because, you know, as a caretaker, even though I'm at work, people still got to have the air cons and all the amenities of the house on. So I was seeing ridiculous $900 bills. That's only going to be getting worse now as these constant rate increases go in. And so, you know, we have storm-resistant housing with flat roofs. It's the elusive obvious. Let's put solar panels on all of them.
All right. Technology, and I mean, it's crazy that we live in a place where we've got 10 months of sunshine a year, and solar is only really starting to become like part of the legitimate conversation, like in the last like couple of years. I've always found that baffling.
Yeah, and yeah, I want to take the conversation from like the solar farms that the CCU likes more to putting it over people's roofs, because we have limited land, but we have all this roof space. Let's take advantage of it. Let's put solar panels on all the schools, so the 3 months that they're not in session, they're still producing energy. They're still producing for the island. Okay,
I want to ask the both of you. We got about a minute and a half left, right? You're both veterans of the electoral process, right? What makes a good political ad, and what works for each of you? And what have you heard from the constituency as far as like that made me remember you, or it endeared you to me when I went to the ballot? And we'll start with you, Senator Brown. How many times have you read now?
Goodness, this is my this will be my 8th time.
Is it
Jason,
the color
believe it or
scheme?
not. I mean, I served with his dad.
Yeah.
When he was
Is
in
it the color
legislature.
scheme? Is it like a nice picture of you smiling? When you look serious, is that better?
You know,
or
one
like,
of the
what
things
goes
that
into
people
an
have
ad?
told me over the years as to why, and I get it from younger people, I get it from a lot of the Monunco, they go, you're a fighter. Probably that more than, you know, how I look or anything else, is that I'm willing to stand up and I'm willing to fight for our people. And I appreciate that. I mean, that's why I'm here. I mean, my desire at this stage of my life, you know, and being back in public service is really to ensure we have a better community. My family lives here, my mother, you know, my young son. I want to make sure that our people have a better future, an accountable future, and a government that we know can serve them a lot better. And
So when people drive by and they see some big billboard and everything like that, the fact that you are going to represent them, us, and are going to fight for them, you say,
and that
comes
has
through?
always been my agenda. I mean,
Okay.
I've never really been the representative of any other big political or, you know, other vested interests than representing the people. And something I'm actually very proud of. I don't get a lot of endorsements. If I do, thank you, but it's not something I seek out. I mean, I'm here to work for the people because this is my home. It's my community. It's filled with the people that I love and care about, and that's probably the main reason why I've ever run for public office. There's so many other things I certainly could do and continue to do, definitely at this time in my life, but I just felt there was a void in leadership.
Do you have any direct input with the design of your ads? And like
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I mean, all of those things. I don't want to represent something that I'm not.
Okay.
I think to try to do that in
the
time,
boss signs off on everything.
in time, people will look at you, and if you're not real and you're not true to who you are, in time, it'll show.
Very true.
Show. So I think you need to be genuine.
Okay, let's go to Wil now. What about your ads have people said really gets people thinking like, I want to vote for that guy?
The things that they've told me is the authenticity of it. They like how real and to the point, and we're not wasting your time. Like on my signs, Wil Parkinson for senator. No fluff, no clean colors. In terms of my messaging, they want to see that they're out there. People want to see that you will be real for them. People want to see that you will suffer for them. So you'll see me out there waving on the side of the road in the rain. You know, I could choose a better day, but I know that the people of Guam want to see that, and I want to give my best foot forward for them.
There you go. Well, speaking of clean, when did you lose the beard, man?
Oh, after No Shave November.
Okay.
Yeah, after
very nice.
Yeah, after that, the wife finally made it through the immigration process, and she likes to clean shave, and I've been clean shaven since.
During the pandemic, we were all on lockdown and everything. You had a pretty nice beard going.
No, I had to regrow the beard for the Shakespeare play.
Okay.
There was a joke somewhere where, there was one joke where I joked that the other guy didn't have a beard, and that made me have to grow a 3-month beard just for that one joke.
Well, there you go. Well, Senator Joanne Brown and Wil Parkinson, congratulations. Very well done on this show, and we wish you both the very best as you
pleasure, Jason.
as you head onto the campaign trail once again. Always a pleasure working with the both of you.
you.
And always a pleasure watching out there in TV land and on the bandwidth. We appreciate you watching. That is Canada Conversations, and that is Hotspot. Now, it's lunchtime, so please enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
KUAM News, winner of the 2022 Region